sometimes I wonder if it's just like a fantasy in my head, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I'm traveling, of course, everything feels relaxing and fun because I'm doing nothing but
Right.
eat,
I was just
sleep, and
gonna say.
explore.
Yeah.
So of course it's gonna be fun, but I really don't know what life is truly like
Yep.
there.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like because when we're there, you're there, like, let's say at most a week or two, right? Even if it's just one location, maybe a couple of days, you know
Hmm.
what I mean? But you're not there when you have work on your schedule, when you have like to run errands and do normal day to day stuff. Like you said, when you're on vacation, it's a vacation. Of
Yeah.
course, it's going to be all fun.
Yeah. And even on vacation, sometimes, we miss certain things back home. But I want to experience that. Like I want to see how other people live. Hi, welcome to the Magnetic Mismatch Show. This is Linda.
And this is Will, and we are matching today.
I'm giving you the look.
Why are you giving me the look? You're the one that copied me.
I wore this outfit first.
And then somehow we also wore the same socks or same colored
Color
socks.
socks
I chose it just because I have cool like Loch Ness monster socks. I don't know
that
about
I
you.
probably bought for you.
You it's so funny. I'm a grown adult and yet you buy most of my clothes for me.
Yeah, I do.
Why did I just admit that? Because the thing is like you would always judge me when I buy stuff. It's like that looks ugly or like, oh, why would you buy that?
That's not true.
I've gotten better, but before
Yeah,
you would do that all the
before.
time. Like, what? Ill, put that back. I'm like, what? I thought it would look nice. Like,
Because you would buy things that
I
didn't
didn't have a
even
sense of fashion back
but
then.
it didn't even fit, and you would just buy it just because you needed a shirt.
Yeah,
I'm like, but that shirt doesn't fit you.
I'm a simple guy, you know? Don't ask for a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
You're like, oh, yeah, that's changed quite a bit. That our topic segueing into that is today a fun one, pretty fun one.
Yeah.
I like to think about it. I think it's very relevant too, especially right now. Our topic is: would you ever consider relocating to a different country?
You know my answer. It's a definite yes.
Would you really?
Yeah. I mean, I've
Like
talked.
seriously? I know we've talked about it. Just especially when we're traveling and we're in a different country.
Mhm.
It sounds good, but is that really a viable option? And do you think most people would actually take action on it?
You know, it's hard because when you live in a place for so long, it's hard to see yourself leaving the place. Like, I've lived in LA for most of my life, and it's hard for me to think about not being in LA anymore, right?
Hmm.
Because I am very familiar with the place. I know where things are, how to navigate transportation. I have my family and friends here, so yes,
Right.
it's very hard to just pack up everything and leave.
I always like I have a lot of admiration for people when they can do that.
Yeah,
Like they just uproot their whole life
Mhm.
and they go.
Yeah,
No hesitation. It's like, wow,
yeah.
good for you.
Or people who live in the van life
Yeah,
where
like an RV and they're just
yeah, and they're
constantly
just
on the move.
traveling from like country to country
Yeah.
or city to city.
I'm not gonna lie, like it's always been like a fantasy of mine, to think about like having that kind of carefree lifestyle where you get to explore, you're always on an adventure and you're not like stuck somewhere. But then I don't know what it is. It's just like personal fears or whatever, like something always holds me back from actually pulling the trigger because it's like, oh, but what about my job? What about my family? Like I always kind of find excuses to explain why I should stay and not just go.
Yeah. I think the unknown is very scary,
Yeah,
right? And there's a process for you to be able to live that kind of lifestyle.
sure.
You would have to basically liquidate your entire life to be able to,
Right. To fund.
yeah, fund or to even be mobile enough to do that.
I mean, you also hear people like when they retire, that's what they do. They
Yeah,
just get an RV and they just travel the country, and they don't have to sell everything. They still have money coming in
that's true.
to pay for that lifestyle if
I
that's
mean,
really what they want. But
yeah,
maybe to a different country is kind of like a big deal too.
yeah. But I feel like, especially with what's happening in the world right now, especially with the pandemic, it has really, I think it has shifted the workforce in a way where more and more people are working from home,
Right.
right? They're more mobile. So, before people were tied down because of their job, they had to go into a physical location.
Right.
That may not be the case anymore. And you may start to see more and more people do that. And actually, I feel like I have,
Yeah, I agree.
right? I mean, there was huge, there's articles out now, stating that more and more people are leaving California
Uh-huh.
and or like cities that are really expensive.
Right.
And I think it's become an option because they get to work from home. So it doesn't really matter where they're at.
Yeah. It could even be I mean, a lot of those people are moving to different states, but I get what you're saying. I mean, if they chose to maybe go to a different country, like why that doesn't really change their work
Yeah, I mean, as long as
necessarily.
that country has internet, right, it shouldn't
Yeah.
really affect anything. But I think, I mean, the idea of moving to another country, it's exciting, but you can do baby steps too. People are just moving to different cities.
Hmm.
Maybe, like within California, they can move into areas that are less populated or it's more nature.
I mean, you would definitely get a lot more for your money, especially in California if you moved away from the inner city,
Yeah.
like especially like places like either Los Angeles or San
San
Francisco.
Francisco.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Silicon Valley. Those guys like up there. I mean, they're paying what like $3,000-$4,000 a month
Mm-hmm. For like
for
a one
a
bedroom.
closet.
Yeah. No, it's true.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So now like if work allows them, they're able to move out of that situation, live further, right, from the inner city, and then still have a great life. They can buy a bigger house. They can live in an actual house,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, and a lot of people they enjoy living in places that are less populated,
Hmm.
right? But because of their work or the nature of their work, they had to,
Yeah, they feel like they're stuck.
yeah, they had to stay there because they have to go into the office and that's where their office is located. But
Yeah.
now, if there's an option, I think people maybe haven't had the time to kind of process
Process.
that
Yeah.
that hey, I have the option to move
Right,
now.
right. It's a big deal. Like I think like you were saying, especially if somebody's lived wherever they've lived for most of their life, it's what we're familiar with. It's where you have your roots. It's where maybe most of your family
Mhm.
is. It's where all your friends are, right?
Yeah.
And it's really hard to imagine, especially if things are good, to just say, I'm gonna just leave all of that and then relocate somewhere that I'm unfamiliar with
Hmm.
and start over again almost, right? In my mind. That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
I think the hardest part for me is to leave my family. I think that's the one thing that holds me back from moving to another state or another country.
Because you and I have definitely talked about it, especially when we've been in our travels
Hmm.
pre COVID, right?
Yeah.
Anytime we're on vacation and we go to a cool place, it's like, oh man, I want to retire here,
Yeah. I always talk about retiring in Portugal.
right? Because we had such a blast, and every time we travel out that way, it's just so relaxing.
Hmm.
And what's nice as a bonus is that the cost of living is a fraction of what we're paying out here in Los Angeles.
Yeah. we could definitely save a lot of money if we just moved.
Right. So the question is, well, why don't we?
See, I think number one,
I mean, other than those factors that you just mentioned, right?
yeah,
Like,
it's our family, right?
mhm.
But we had to remind ourselves like they can come visit us still, and we can make quality time out of that
Yeah,
because
but it's not the same though.
it's really not the
You can't
same.
visit them every week, right?
Yeah,
Like you're
that's
doing
true.
now.
Yeah. Well, but you know, but they can stay with you for an extended period of time,
Yeah.
right? If you have a house there, like let's say they stay like a month with us, that kind of equates to us seeing them every week. It's a compromise, and
It
then
is. I mean, I'm sure you can figure out something. It's not
yeah,
like the
I think it's
end all be all.
the planning is scary. The change is always scary.
Right.
Um, I think so. That's one, and number two, it's sometimes I wonder if it's just like a fantasy in my head, right?
Yeah.
It's like when I'm traveling, of course, everything feels relaxing and fun because I'm doing nothing but
Right.
eat,
I was just
sleep, and
gonna say.
explore.
Yeah.
So of course it's gonna be fun, but I really don't know what life is truly like
Yep.
there.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like because when we were there, you're there, let's say at most a week or two, right? Even if it's just one location, maybe a couple of days. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? But you're not there when you have work on your schedule, when you have like to run errands and do normal day to day stuff. Like you said, when you're on vacation, it's a vacation. Of
Yeah,
course, it's going to be all fun.
yeah. And even on vacation, sometimes we miss certain things back home, right? Like
Yeah.
especially you miss driving.
Yeah.
Um,
Like being in my own car, having like big, wide roads to drive on,
yeah,
and everything. Like I mean, relative to like Europe, and I know some parts of Asia, but like, um, just everything in the U.S. is just like bigger, spacier. More. There's more leg room.
hmm,
I just feel like a lot of places in Europe, like it's tiny, or you feel a little cramped.
yeah.
Like everything it's very efficient. Don't get me wrong.
But I love that. I mean, I don't love that it's cramped. But I think I can overlook that.
It's not a
Just
big deal for
it's not
you.
a big deal for me because I don't like driving. So if the transportation is there, like I really don't mind that ride.
Well, yeah, I'm okay with that too. But and I'm just saying that that's one of the things I think about. That's
Y-
nice.
Yeah,
But I'm also saying like the space, right, in itself, like a bedroom here is huge
yeah.
compared to like a
But
lot
I
of
think it
places.
depends where you're looking at too. Because if we looked at places that are a little bit like remote from the city,
Yeah,
like I've seen some like YouTubers where they buy an actual house and it's very spacious and they have land and stuff. But I think you just have to
right.
look at the outskirts of the city.
True. That
Yeah.
true. We haven't done enough, right, in terms of actual research and taking it to that level
Hmm.
where it's like you're actually looking at owning a property or maybe you're renting a home because usually if you're on vacation, you're only really staying in hotels
Yeah.
or Airbnbs.
And you're usually in the city where all the activities are at,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And here we're just talking more specifically about Europe just because that was the last place we've been
Hmm.
before all of this happened. And that doesn't include like even somewhere like Canada, right?
Yeah.
Very closely similar to the US. Um, maybe that's a viable option as well.
Yeah.
And for sure, I think no matter where outside of the country from the US, I feel like the cost of living, it's going to be a lot better. Of course, it depends on specifically where you move, but that can save you a bunch of money. And that's a huge pro for a lot of people.
Hmm.
It's a huge motivator. That would be one of the reasons I would decide to move.
Yeah. And a lot of countries outside of the U.S. They have universal health care.
Yeah.
So the cost of health insurance or supplemental to it, it's very little compared to what we have to pay
I know.
now.
Isn't it crazy? You hear these
Yeah,
stories all the time. I mean, one of our friends was telling us about like Taiwan, right?
yeah. They got they got injured and they went to the hospital and their bill was like $20 or something
That's crazy.
to go to
Like an
like
ER
a
or something?
or urgent care type. And I'm like,
Yeah.
your bill would have been like couple hundred to $1,000 here,
Yeah.
if you didn't have insurance.
I know. It's crazy. And I
Yeah.
think like regular visits are free or something, right? Or a couple bucks.
I think it's free.
Yeah. Definitely a lot of other places are doing that really well for what it is.
Yeah. So that's something else you can potentially save on.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just the excitement of living in another country or another city that like captivates me. Like
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's a new adventure, right? And I wanna like be able to just experience what it's like to live in someone else's world,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
It is different, right? Like we were saying, living, let's say, in a different country or a different place for an extended period of time, and you're actually immersing yourself into the culture, into the day-to-day stuff. That's very different than what we've been accustomed to experiencing, which is just we're visiting for a couple of like weeks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I want to experience that. Like I want to see how other people live,
Yeah.
right? Versus, all most of my life this is all I know.
Right.
It's what it's like to live in LA.
Yeah.
But I want to feel like, or get a feel on what it's like to live in another country and their day to day, and go to work and try to pick up another language.
That would be so cool.
Yeah, that'll be so cool. And I think that's the one thing that's always in back of my mind.
Do you think part of the reason people like that holds people back also is like if they have kids or if they're thinking about having kids?
Yeah, I know if depending on, I guess, how old your kids are, the two things most people would most probably think about the most is one, education system, and two, healthcare, right? But if you look at other countries, there are plenty of countries with both good healthcare system and education.
Yeah.
Right. And if you're afraid they may lose their native tongue, you can always, supplement their education with plenty of online programs.
Yeah. So there's definitely more resources now than
Yeah.
ever.
Yeah. It's accessible now.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. I think it's definitely a more realistic option now more than ever before. And I think it's just that people haven't really given it enough thought. Like we just recently started talking about it. That's kind of what motivated us for this topic, is like really like think about it. It's always like it's fun to think about, right? But then it's like, well, wait, could this actually be a real option? Let's look at some numbers. Let's see like how much does it actually cost, to live out there.
Yeah.
And we always say like, oh, we'll just go there when we retire. But why do we have to wait till retirement to do it?
Yeah. And I think that one thing I kind of reminded us today is that it doesn't have to be permanent.
Yeah.
Right? It's like you feel that way because yes, it is a commitment to uproot your life and go to another country to live. But if you don't like it, you can always move back.
So maybe somebody could try it, right, for a little bit and see if they even like it.
Yeah.
It might be it might not be what you expect even. Maybe you live there for 3 months or 6 months and then it's like, it's not what I expected. Because I actually had that happen with a client. She retired a couple of years ago and basically she moved from the US, right?
Yeah.
It's beaches and it's always what she thought, because she had visited prior to going to living out there many times. Like she would go every year because she has like relatives and stuff out there. And she would always have a blast, and I would always hear these stories about just how much fun she had. So that's why she wanted to go out there when she retired. And when it finally came to her retiring and living out there after a year, and I asked her like, how are you liking it? She's like, I hate it. I'm like, what? Why? And it's just like little things that she misses, that it's not the same. It's not what she thought it would be.
Yeah.
And now she feels like, I'm considering maybe moving back, but she's kind of like on the, I don't know, on the fence about it.
Yeah. But that's kind of like, people who fantasize about living in like a ranch life, right?
Yeah.
But they don't like, but then they figured after they move to ranch, I don't like farming.
Yeah. They find out.
Like, out. It's like, oh, this is not what I want.
It's not as glamorous as I had in my mind. Yeah.
But
But you don't know, right?
But you
until
don't know
you
until
actually
you
go.
try, right? Until you go. And the beauty of it is that you can always come back to your life. I can always come back to LA.
So are you hinting that we should move to a different country for a couple months and then come back potentially? Or maybe not come back if we really like it?
I mean, I've been talking about it.
You have. A little it's not even a nudge anymore.
It's not like, a surprise.
Hey, we could expedite our plans instead of like waiting till retirement, a couple more decades out.
Yeah.
Why not just go check it out now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cool thought. And I think if anybody's even remotely thinking about that as a potential option, I think now's the perfect time to really, really like look into it, right? Really think it through and really map it out, you know?
I'm just asking, or even just to move to another city.
You think that's enough of a change though? I think that's more easily done.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's a start, right? See if I can live without LA for a little.
Yeah. That's true. I think an easy one, if somebody like, for example, lived in LA, if they moved to San Diego, for example, which is, if you're not familiar,
it's like a 2 hour.
Yeah, it's like a 2 hour away or 2 hour drive from where we're at. And I feel like that would be, it's similar, right, to LA, but it still has a different vibe and a different feel to it. Do you think that's enough though?
Probably not.
Yeah.
But at least it's
a baby step, right?
It's a baby step just to get us moving.
Just to change your scenery, change your environment a little bit.
Yeah.
And get maybe used to the idea of relocating. Right. Because it is a big ask. I mean, when you really boil it down, to uproot everything, to leave, and maybe in some cases, what if your employer is not cool with you leaving to a different, even though you can work remotely, they're like, no, we don't want you to move, or we can't continue our relationship if you're in a different country.
Yeah.
What do you do?
You would have to start a new life.
So you would still move, but how are you going to pay your bills? What if you don't speak the language in the new country that you're planning on relocating to?
I think this is when you have to get creative, right? And try to find another online job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
It's more acceptable now, you know, and I think that's true. Maybe more,
but that's where
there's more opportunities.
The planning comes in, right? It's not move because you feel like it, but if it makes sense and if you have the opportunity.
Yeah. I think for what we're trying to say in this episode, we're not telling you go move right now, right? Without any consideration. But I think it's more of, because it's something we've been talking more about lately, is just maybe make it a real consideration. Consider as a potential viability if it's something you've ever wanted to really do.
Yeah.
Like now is kind of like the best time to maybe think about that.
Yeah.
It feels like it's more realistic, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add? Any takeaways you think are important for people?
Just consider it as an option, right? Weigh your pros and cons. And I think just realizing that it doesn't have to be a permanent move takes off
a lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure that you have to like or love.
It has to work.
Yeah. You have the option of moving back if things don't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's very true. Makes that a little bit easier to stomach for sure. Okay. I think that's it for us. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and we hope you guys had a little bit of fun just kind of thinking about this stuff.
And share with us, where would you move to?
Yeah.
Let us know and why. So maybe it's an option that we haven't considered
Right.
in the past, but we may look into it. So let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear that. You can comment on our Instagram page. We'll put a post up about the episode at Magnetic Mismatch. And if you enjoyed the episode, then go ahead and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast.
Yeah. And we release a new episode every Thursday. And make sure to share our content with your family and friends.
All right. Awesome, guys. We will chat with you next time.
Until next time, bye.
Bye.